Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Crocheter's Creed, and today we are going to be making the gnome from Little Nightmares. I attempted to make Six, the tiny little yellow hooded girl, but it didn't turn out too well, so we're going to be making the tiny people that assist her in the game, and they're called little gnomes. So what you will need for this project is a 5.5 millimeter hook for the body and the head, and a 3.5 millimeter hook, I don't know if you can see that, a 3.5 millimeter hook for the arms, the legs, and the tiny little feet. You will also need scissors, a yarn needle. We won't be gluing anything on to this project. Well, you can, I might, but a yarn needle for this portion. Stitch markers, well, a stitch marker, I can't find my other one, and a little bit of brown yarn. I don't have that much left, but they're a bit brown or grayish. So let's get started. Okay, now for this portion of the project, we're going to be making his body, and the body, his torso, or their torso for this part, is the exact same pattern for Sans' torso. So I'm going to be using the same pattern for Sans' torso. And if you haven't seen that, of course, I'm going to show you. So you're going to do a magic circle. Do a magic circle. Take your 5.5 millimeter hook. And make sure you can see. Yarn over, and you are going to do 14 single crochet into the magic circle. So this is 1, 2, come on, 3, all the way up until you get to 14. Alright, after you are done, this is what it's going to look like. And I forgot to mention that you also will need pillow stuffing for the torso. But you are going to slip stitch into that top stitch there. Slip stitch in the top stitch. Come on. Make sure you can see it. And pull through. Now that's what it's going to look like. Now for row 1, you are going to chain 2. Come on. And you are going to single crochet and do an increase. You're going to single crochet into the first stitch. And then you are going to do an increase in the second stitch. And it increases 2 of the same stitches. So that's 1, and you're going to do 2. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. So in the next stitch, 1 single crochet. In the next stitch, 2 single crochets. The only reason I chain 2 for this portion is because I have a hard time lining up my ends. So with the chain 2, I know that it's right there. But continue this pattern all the way around for row 1. Alright, so after you're done, this is what it's going to look like. And you're going to slip stitch into the top stitch there. Slip stitch into that stitch. And that is row 1. Now for row 2, you are going to chain 2. And you are going to do an increase in the first stitch. So 2 single crochet into the first stitch. Don't let the chain 2 confuse you as to put in a double crochet. You put 2 single crochet into the first stitch, or an increase. And then for the rest of the remaining stitches, you are going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch around. I want to make sure you can see it. You're going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch for row 2. Now that we're back to the beginning, you're going to slip stitch into the top stitch, and that is row 2. So you see it starting to form. Now for rows 3 through 5, you are going to chain 2. Remember your chain 2. You're going to chain 2, and you are going to put 1 single crochet and every stitch around for rows 3 through 5. As you can see, it's starting to form a tiny little thing, and the gnomes, which I just found out what their names were today because the game really doesn't make it clear, have kind of little tubby bellies. So I think it's starting to form well. Now after you finish row 5, for row 6, you are going to chain 1, sorry about that, chain 1, and you are going to do a decrease. So in the next stitch, I know you can't really see, but in the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 3. That is a decrease. And after you have done your decrease, you are going to single crochet in every stitch around for row 6. After that, you slip stitch into the top stitch and chain 2. Now if you want to add a stitch marker just in case, you can. But for rows 7 through 10, you are going to chain 2 at the beginning of every round, and you are going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So rows 7 through 10, put 1 single crochet in every stitch. Okay, so after 7 through 10, this is what it's going to start to look like. Tiny little tummy. And for row 11, you are going to chain 1, and you are going to do, let me zoom in so you can see, you are going to do a decrease. So what you are going to do is go into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the second stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, and that is a decrease. And then after that, you're going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch around for row 11. Now for row 12, you are going to chain 1. I chain 1, make sure you can see. And you are going to decrease in every stitch around. So I'm going to show you so you don't get confused. Go in, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, go in, pull up a loop, wrap around, yarn over, pull through 3. That's that. Don't mistake this for your next stitch, because it's pulled this way. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, oh, come on, wrap around, go into the next stitch, yarn over, wrap around, pull through all 3. Like I said, don't confuse this stitch for your next one. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, then pull through all 3. And you're going to repeat that all the way around until you get back to the end. Slip stitch, this is what it's going to look like. Now before you move on, I don't like this tail hanging off, so I'm going to tighten it, and I'm going to get a tinier hook. I'm going to get my 3.5mm hook and stick it through the bottom so that I can pull the string out. Oh, come on. So I can pull the string out, and I won't have to sew in, come on, won't have to sew in the thing. So I'm just going to pull that through. And now you can start adding your stuffing. Make sure you don't pull out a little bit of yarn so that you won't stuff that in. And start stuffing your body. Stuff it to your liking. I'm not going to stuff mine as much. Get a little stuffing here, because I want mine to be pretty. He has a tubby belly, but I don't want him to be too tubby. But stuff it to your liking. And shape it up a bit, kind of squeeze it, let it round out. I'm only going to use a little bit more because I like the way mine looks here. Tough it out, there you go. And I think that's enough. Let me add a little bit at the top. What you're going to do is you're going, what's my thing? Let's move this out the way with the camera. Move this out the way. You're going to chain 1 and go through and pull this out all the way. Cut your yarn, snip that. You're going to attach your needle to the yarn like we have done before, and you're just going to weave in, weave in, weave in, and weave out. Once you weave in and out of all the stitches around here, you're going to pull through and it's going to tighten it. And it's going to look something like this. This is the top part of it. So yeah. Make that, and I will be back to show you how to make the arms, the legs, and the feet. Alrighty, now for the legs, and they have pretty long legs. You are going to get your, let's cut this part off. You're going to take your brown yarn and your 3.5 millimeter hook, and you're going to make a magic circle. It's funny as I never really used magic circles at all when I first started crocheting. It was my sophomore year of high school. I always use chains, but this works for me. So what you're going to do for the legs is you're going to make a magic circle, and you're going to single crochet 5 times. Make sure you can see this. Single crochet 5 times into the circle. Oh no. That's 1. This is 2. This is 3. 4. And 5. Okay, you have 5 single crochet. You're going to tighten it, pull it. And this you will need, this part you will need your stitch marker, because since there's not a lot of stitches, it's going to be harder to differentiate what is your chain 1, because you are chaining 1. If you chain 2, it's not going to look that great. Come on, let's try this again. Slip stitch into the top stitch. Attempt number 2. Okay, there we go. And what you are going to do for the starting part, come on now, help me out here. You're going to add your stitch marker and you are going to put it underneath the stitch. Well, this one you really can't see. Put it underneath the stitch, underneath your chain 1. Come on. And you're going to single crochet in every stitch around. And since it's not that much, I'm just going to show you here. Oh, this is a mess because my fingers are big and it's really, really tiny. Okay, let's focus. Thank you. Single crochet this stitch, go into the next stitch there, single crochet to that stitch, go into the next stitch. See, this is, if this was black yarn, it'd be a bit harder to differentiate the stitches, but come on. It's going to be really tight, so you're going to need to the stitch marker really helps, I think. And go into that last stitch in the middle. Come on, come on. And that is the starting round. Then you're going to slip stitch. Make sure you're going to slip stitch in the stitch above the stitch marker, and that is what it's going to look like. It's going to be really tiny, and you are going to repeat this for 8 rows. So rows 1 through 8, you're going to single crochet in every stitch around and chain 1. And don't forget to remove your stitch marker and carry on with the stitch. So this is row 1. Now if you don't feel like it's long enough, you can always make longer ones. It's all up to you. I'm just giving you my pattern, but if you want to alternate it, you can. But rows 1 through 8, single crochet in every stitch around and chain 1. Right now, after you're done, I have made my 2 legs. You have to make 2 of them, of course, so everything's tangled up. And now we are going to make the arms. And now for the arms, you will still need your 3.5mm hook and your stitch marker. So for this, you are going to, let's smooth that out. I hate when it looks like that. Okay. You're going to do a magic circle. This is for the arms part now. And if it feels like I'm going too quickly, the pattern will always be in the description of the video. So, make a magic circle, chain 1, and in the magic circle you are going to put 4 single crochets. I'm sorry, you can't see it. I have a tendency to look at my hands rather than in the camera. 2, oh come on, 2, 3, and 4. This one may be a bit harder because it's less stitches, but the arms are made the exact way that the legs are. It's just fewer stitches. So you see how tiny it is? See how tiny it is? I'm going to go into the top stitch. This may be a bit harder to do. Let's see. Top stitch. It's okay if you don't get it the first time. Come on. Thank you. Top stitch. That is not the top stitch. Come on. Ugh. Hold on. Come on. Well, you get the gist of it. Slip stitch into the top stitch. And when I finally get my needle and my stitch, I will show you what row 1 looks like. Now, with many failed attempts, I have finally got my slip stitch, and you see how tiny it is? So the stitches aren't that, it's not that much to stitch, but once you begin to get farther up in the arm, it will be a bit harder to crochet. This is my least favorite part of this stitch because it takes a bit to make it. But what you're going to do is you're going to single crochet in every stitch around for rows 1 through 8. And if you think the arms are too long or too short, keep going with how many, but I did 8 rows for both the leg and the arms. So I will meet you back when you are done. And remember to yarn off, cut your yarn, but don't try to weave in the opening parts to it. So 1 through 8, and I'll meet you back to make the pointed head. The next thing that we will make before the head is the last thing that you will make, are the feet. And they have tiny little flat looking feet. And they, for this portion, it's kind of going to be like a flip-flop instead of a actual foot, because I'm not that advanced, I can admit. So you're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you are going to single crochet down the row. Remember, still with your 3.5mm hook. Oh, come on. Come on. Don't be rude. Okay, let's try that again. into that last stitch there, and pull that. Now you're going to chain 1 and turn, and you're going to single crochet into the same stitch, into that same stitch that you just chained your 1, and do a single crochet. Going to go into the next stitch, do a single crochet, and do a single crochet all the way down the chain, and this tiny stitch at the end you're going to go into and do 1 single crochet. And you see how it's kind of like a angled sort of thing? That's all it is the foot. And what you're going to do is, that's all it's going to look like. Tiny little toe. So you're going to make 2 of these, and then we will get on to the head. Alrighty, now for the head portion, you are going to take your 5.5 millimeter hook, and you are going to chain 33. Now, if you have played the game or watched the game, you know that the head is triangular in shape and it's kind of overlapping the body. Not overlapping, but it's a bit bigger than the body. So it's loose around it, and you're going to build it up to a triangle point. So it has to be loose around the body. So this is perfect. You don't want it tight like this, because the bottom of the head is wrapped around the body, and then as it gets farther up into a triangle, it gets really tiny. So, whoop. Keep the body intact. So you're going to chain 33. I'm going to wait and so you can chain your 33. Chain them more or less if you want. Excuse me. So what you're going to do is you are going to yarn over. Let's see if you can see this. Yarn over, and you are going to do a half double crochet in every stitch across. Come on. You don't know what a half double crochet is, just for people who don't know. You wrap around, go into the stitch, wrap around. Now you have 3 stitches on your loop. Wrap around, pull through all 3 stitches, and you're going to do that all. No, wait, no. Pardon me. That is wrong. What you're going to do first is join your ends together. Make sure this is still a decent size. You're going to join your ends together. Pardon me. You're going to join your ends together. Going to wrap around and slip stitch into the thing, and what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1, and then you are going to do your half double crochet in every stitch around. So yarn over, go through the first stitch, wrap around, do it, and make sure, try not to twist your thing. You're going to do 1 half double crochet in every stitch around for the starting chain or starting row. Alright, now after you are done, you are going to slip stitch into the top stitch here. Oh, come on. And you are going to chain 1. Now for rows 1 and 2, you are going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch around, and remember to chain 1 at the beginning. So rows 1 and 2, 1 double crochet one half double crochet, I'm sorry, one half double crochet, and every stitch around. Sorry about that. One half double crochet. For row, after you are done, you are going to slip stitch, and this is what it's going to start to look like. The front part. And what you're going to do is chain one, and you are going to do a decrease in the first stitch. So wait, go into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, double decrease, and then do a half double crochet in every stitch around for row 3. Alright, now to line it up a bit more, I did a decrease in the last stitch as well. So there's my decrease. I'm just going to show you. Every decrease takes 2 stitches. So in the last 2 stitches, yarn over and pull up a loop, go into the next, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through all of it. And it lines it up a bit more than just one decrease at the beginning. Slip stitch into the top stitch. And that is row 3. For row 4, you are going to chain 1, and you are going to put 2 decreases in the beginning and the end of the row, and half double crochet in between. So I'm going to yarn over, go through that stitch, do a decrease, go through that other stitch, do a decrease, pull through all 3, yarn over, go through that second stitch, go through that stitch, yarn over, pull through 3, and then you're going to half double crochet in every stitch until you get to the last 4 stitches, and then you are going to do a decrease, 2 decreases at the end. Confuse you. My last decrease, you will be going into that middle stitch here. Just for people that were confused, you will be going into that middle stitch before your chain 1, and that's how it's going to look. And then you're going to slip stitch into the top stitch here, and that is row, that is row 4. I don't like the way that looks. Hold on. Didn't slip stitch into the top stitch, I slipped into the stitch, top stitch there. There we go. Now you're going to chain 1. Yes, you can see it starting to build up a bit. So for row 5, you are going to decrease. You're going to do 3 decreases in the beginning and the end of the row. So 3 decreases count for 6 stitches. So that 1, 2, 1, 2 is 1 decrease, 1, 2 is a second decrease, 1, 2 is a third decrease. So in your 6 stitches in the beginning, do your decrease, and leave 6 stitches open at the end so that you can put your decreases in. And remember, you wrap over, yarn over, go into 1 stitch, go into the next stitch, and that is a decrease. And after your 3 decreases with your 6 stitches, you are going to half double crochet in between. Now, as you can see, it's starting to form upwards, Now for row 6, you are going to chain 1 again, and you are simply going to put 1/2 double crochet in every stitch around for row 6. Okay, for row 7, you are going, and if it's going to start to scrunch up, then you can just pull it out of it. For row 7, you are going to yarn over and do a decrease, 4 decreases next, but you're only gonna do it in the beginning. You're not going to do 4 at the end, just 4 decreases in the beginning. This is my 3rd one, and this is the 4th one. So after that, you are going to half double crochet all the way around till you get back to the beginning. For row 8, you are going, well, I've already done it, but for row 8, you are just going to chain 3 this time because it's getting too frumpy here. Chain 3 and half double crochet all the way around for row 8. Alright, now after you are done, you are going to chain 1 and you are going to do 2 decreases in the beginning, and after that you are just going to put 1/2 double crochet in every stitch around. So put your 2 decreases. Is that a decrease? 2 decreases, and then half double crochet all the way around. As you can see, it's starting to build. For row 10, you are going to do the same thing. You are going to decrease, and you're going to do 2 decreases. Oh, you can't even see it. You're going to do 2 decreases in the beginning and the end of the pattern, and half double crochet in between. So that was my first decrease. This is my second one, and after this I'm going to half double crochet until I get to my last 4 stitches. And since a decrease takes up 2, you will put your 2 decreases in your last 4 stitches. Now for row 11, you are going to chain 1 and half double crochet in every stitch around. And as you can see, it is starting to make a tiny little triangle. So 1/2 double crochet in every stitch around for row 11. For row 12, which I've already done, because I'm kind of changing the pattern, now that I've seen a few discrepancies, not discrepancies, but a few different things. I've already done it, but for row 12, you are going to chain, see, I hate the way the back looks, I might turn it inside. Yeah, inside out. But for row 12, you are going to do 2 decreases in the beginning and the end of the stitch and half double crochet in between. And that shouldn't take, put my pen down, that shouldn't take long. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top stitch and wait for you to get back to the beginning. After this, you will chain 1 and you will simply do a decrease in every stitch around. And remember, a decrease takes up 2 stitches. So don't confuse it. gonna get a bit tight to oh, come on. This. Just have to do 1/2 double crochet. Oh no, I can do it. The decrease. Go into this stitch, yarn over, go into that middle stitch there, yarn over, pull through all 3, and slip stitch into that top. Oh wait, let's see. Just pull it out a bit. Pull it out a bit. Come on. And slip stitch into that top stitch there. Now it's not that much space left in the triangle. I want to pull it out a bit. But that is the head for the gnome. Now what you're going to do after that, I might turn mine inside out because I don't like the way the back looks. You're just going to chain 1, and you're going to snip your yarn. Now you may want to leave a long tail because I've yet to figure out how to add the head to the thing, but this is how it's supposed to look like. This is how it's supposed to look. Now you can either glue this on like this, or you can sew it on. I think what I'm going to do is just glue it. Use a tiny bit of glue here and on the back, and just glue it. A tiny little thing, so cute. But if you don't have any, if you don't have a glue gun, you can always go through, and I'll show you with the needle so that you can. Where's my needle? I can't seem to find my needle. I'm just going to show you with this needle. But what you're going to do is pick up a stitch. I found it. Now what you are going to do is take, with my needle, I'm not going to go in, but with the yarn end that you just used, that you cut off for this, you're going to attach your needle to this piece of yarn, and you are going to go stitch farther into the thing, whichever row that you want to be in. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, about the 4th row, stitch down or weave it until you get into the 4th row, and go in through the stitch here and go back out through the thing. You just pull out and go back in through the stitches only about here, all the way across, and then turning. I hate the way that looks. And turning, you might need to use a different thing of yarn, and just add a piece of yarn and don't pull all the way through, and sew in the back. You don't want it pressed like this. You don't want it like that. You want it out. So only sew and about to the front portion. Let these flaps hang in the back portion. And if that's not clear enough for you, you can always leave me a comment down below if I wasn't clear enough or I did something wrong. As long as it's respectful, I will help. But yes, I'm going to glue mine on. But I'm going to leave the head here for a second. And you're going to grab your legs. Can't really see which ones are my legs and which ones are my feet, arms. Okay, so I have my 2 legs here. And I need my 2 feet. Now all you're going to do for the 2 legs and the 2 feet, the legs, the pointy part of the foot here, the pointy part, is going to go on the bottom of that foot. So it's like a tiny little web foot. Now you can either sew that in or glue it on. Now if you're going to glue it, please be very careful, because I have burned myself, as you can see, a bunch of times. So be very careful with the glue gun. It's really dangerous if you don't have if you're a kid attempting to do this, have adult supervision. And if you're an adult or a teen or whatever, just be careful. And you can always sew this up if you want to. I just like leaving it open so it won't have that scrunched up look. So you're gonna, that's how it's supposed to look. One end of the leg on top of the end of the foot. And it's tiny little foot. So I'm gonna get my glue gun and attach my feet to my legs. Glued on my feet. And now we will go for the arms. Now the arms also, it's up to you whether you want to glue it or to sew it in. For me, I'm going to sew mine on. So while I get these untangled, I'm going to sew on my arms. And since my legs don't have any string on them, I will just glue those onto it. But I'm sewing on my arms, so go ahead and sew on your arms, and I will come back to show you the final product. So sew on your arms and your legs, or glue on your arms and your legs, and attach your head, and I will come back and show you the final result. This is the final product. I'm sorry that the final product is that it's starting out with a different background. Mine was vertical and it didn't really look right, so I had to redo the outro. But this is the finished look, and I thank you for visiting my channel, and I will see you soon with hopefully more characters from Little Nightmares. Bye.